Family, welcome back to Curious Creations. Super excited that you joined me today. I promised to get out in the shed and make this knife for you, but first I've got a huge announcement. I am giving away one of the knives that I've created in a previous video. For more details on this knife, you can just jump down in the description below, follow the link, and watch the video. But I need you to do 3 things in order to be considered for this knife. Like, subscribe, and comment below. Now, at the very end of the video, I'll give you all the details on how to get this guy in your hands. That's enough. More about this later. Let's jump out to the shed. I'm out here in the shed once again, and as promised, I'm going to make a knife. Now, I've got a little bit of material left from that saw blade I used last time, so we're going to use this to make our blade. Now, bear with me. You might see some foggy and breath. It's about 40 degrees, 30 degrees outside, somewhere in that neighborhood. But I've got some warmth in the shed. I do have a little space heater, so we should be out here for a while and comfortable enough to get it done. All right, so just as I did in the past videos, we'll start with the design phase. So one thing I did a couple days ago is I designed a couple different ideas that I liked, and I narrowed down on one. So I've already traced out the baseline, and what we'll do now is sort of fill in the blanks as to what we expect to see. All in all, there's my design. So now what we need to do is chop it up, cut it out. So per usual, what I want to do is to make sure that I'm cleaning up along the way. So I'm going to grab my scraps, get those thrown in the trash, and then we'll move on to transferring. All right, so transferring this design on to the blade. Again, I'm using that leftover piece of blade that I had from the last video, and I am going to transfer that off onto, I'm going to transfer that design off onto the blade. All right, so I think I found a layout on this blade that will give me just enough space to functionally get another small neck knife out of this exact same saw blade. So let's go ahead and trace this out, and then we will get over to the grinder and cut it up. All right, so now with our design traced onto the blade, you can see there that I didn't leave much space at all to manipulate that guy much, which is okay, because what I plan to do is hopefully get exactly what I need out of this chunk and then potentially use all of this open space for another knife. So let's get over to grinding and cutting. All right, so now what I have is the basic cutout of my blade, and I'm going to go in and take my grinder and clean out the inside scoop there and clean up those edges, and I'll take that angle grinder and kind of refine that shape before I take it to the belt grinder. All right, guys, so I was able to get in there and refine the blade a little bit, got in with the grinder, got the basic shape that I was looking for, and I can put that up against my drawing to see that it's a little bit broader, but having that all grinded out, that gives me a starting point. So let's pull out the belt grinder and get going. All right. So after some refining, what I come up with is that guy there. What I did was give it this little bone end there, and the reason for that is so that I have a place to put this finger comfortably, so that I can get two in the finger hold there, and then this other one just kind of grasping part of the blade. Remember, there's going to be a little hole here for a lanyard to drop through. So if I can get these three fingers on, or these two fingers on here, this third finger there, then I can get the lanyard sort of tucked in my pinky finger to get a good hold on the entire knife. But after refining, that's what I come up with. All right. So as in the last video, while you're working, you want to make sure you're cleaning up your space. So let's get cleaned up. All right. So now that I've refined my shape, what I want to do is get in and start my grind. All right, guys. So with the grind put in, it's not great, but it's got the idea that I was sort of going for there. So you can see that sort of defining line where it starts. And then with this angle and this lighting, you probably can't see where it ends, but there's a fairly clean line there. I'm going to refine this a little bit more with a finer grit sandpaper on the belt grinder. But I want to get closer to a finished product before I do. So let's get on to handle design, punching holes, and all that good stuff. So again, this sort of ebony wood is a very dark color wood. It's a very dense, very hard wood, so it's going to be fun to cut. But at the same time, I think that it will create a very nice contrast with the pin selection. This copper tubing that you'll typically find in like a plumbing department. The reason that I like it is because it's hollow, it's thin, but it's also fairly rigid. What I'll do is chop this down to a pin size, and we'll use that for one of our pins. Having the copper and that dark wood gives a really nice contrast in color. All right, so looking at my handle design and the wood, what I want to do is remember exactly what shape I was looking for in this handle material. All right, so I've got the basic shape here carved out, traced out onto my handle scale material. So what I'll do is a nice clean cut over here to make it a little easier than trying to do that over on the scroll saw. Um, and then I will keep this up here blocked off until I can refine it into that sort of shape there. And what my goal is to do with this is to get this down to the shape I really want and then transfer that shape on to the other scale. So as mentioned before, what I want to do is actually cut off a chunk of this material. So to save myself some time, I'm actually going to use my circular saw to just knock that off and then notch that so that when it's time to grind in or get close in and scroll in that edge, it's a lot easier. So if I can get through and clean up a little bit as I'm moving on, it just makes it easier to transition from step to step. All right, so I think I'm gonna have to call an audible and grind the majority of this end, as this wood is just too dense for that little scroll saw. I've got to invest in a bandsaw, but too much for my tool, so I'm gonna find another way to get these hunks of material gone so that we can grind the rest on the belt grinder. So bear with me. All right, you can see there's a lot of smoke in the room. You can see my creative juices flowing as I was trying to resolve how to get rid of those chunks of material. So I ended up going with the angle grinder, which definitely produced a lot of smoke and mucked up my grinding wheel. But it got me to the rough shape that I'm looking for. So now what I want to do is try and get this similar rough shape out of this guy, press the holes, get my holes pressed into both the material and the knife steel, then get these two secured to each other so that then I can refine some of the grinding on this guy. All right, so now I've got the very rough shapes cut out of both scales, and we will measure and get down to pressing some holes so I can press these together, and then we will grind in our bevels and refine our shape. But before we do that, let's clean up. All right, guys, so at the sacrifice of being a little cold, as you can see, doors open back there because there was a lot of smoke in the room. So I wanted to get that taken care of. But next step here is to focus in on getting these scales and the blade steel, getting some holes pressed into that so that I can press these two together. So I'm going to lay this over, get an idea of where my hole will be. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill holes through the blade and the first scale. Then I'll transfer those holes over to the other scale. So hopefully this all works out well. All right, so step one to getting these scales put together is I just want to make sure that these are nice and flat so they fit nice and flush. So I'm going to take these over to the grinder and make sure that they are flat. Probably not going to show you that. We'll just skip back to the pin set. All right, so now that I've got these flat and they fit nice and flush to each other, the way I'm going to secure them together is actually some screw pins that have a barrel like that there, and little screws to match. Now with these two scales pressed together and set in with those pins, the barrel screws, what I can do is take this whole unit over to my grinder and get them nice and uniform, because as you can see now, they are not the same size. All right, so as you can see, I'm getting a little dirty here, so I'm going to clean up, but I want to show you real quick. I was able to get those contours to be fairly smooth. I'm going to get in here with the Dremel to get all the details, but I wanted to make sure that I got those contours in there fairly smooth before we glue up and then get into our final grinds. Well, let me clean up. While I'm over here, guys, I think what I'm going to do, gotten cleaned up just a bit, I'm going to jump over and I'm going to cut our pins to size. So you'll see how I kind of straighten out the copper tube, and then I go through and just chop off a small section. So let's get that part done. All right, one quick step is I want to take these to the bench grinder and kind of smooth out those edges. All right, so with those pins cleaned up, the next step to do is to press them through my scales to make sure that they are the right, because it's a very soft metal. So to make sure that they're the right round shape, I'm going to go ahead and press them through my scales. Now that I got over and I pressed in the pins, and I pressed them through so that they were nice and straight, I have them pressed into one side. What I will now do is get them all glued up. so there we go. Now that she's glued up, we'll let her rest, let her dry, and we'll clean up. All right, family. So while that glue up dries, I wanted to stop, pause, and talk about a couple things. You may notice that I'm wearing a different pair of glasses. That's because this entire time I've been wearing the Meta Ray-Bans. I'm super, super excited about the video footage that I'm able to get. So if you're noticing some of the POV shots that I'm getting and wondering how, it's the Meta Ray-Bans. I am in no way affiliated or sponsored by Meta. I just enjoy wearing them and I enjoy what I'm able to produce with them. So hopefully you do as well. Guys, if you do like what you're seeing, please do like and subscribe below. I truly need your support here. Also, jump in the comments and tell me what you think about the content and tell me what you'd like to see. Stick around to the end of the video because I do have a giveaway that I want to talk about. That giveaway is the knife that I made in one of my last videos. So stick around for the details on that. Now, let's get back to the work. All right, guys, so I was able to get the knife out of, it's all dried up, and I was able to get it out of the clamps, and this is what I came away with. As you can see, there's a lot of spillage that I will have to clean up, but the edges are pretty tidy due to the fact that I scraped away some of that excess before it dried. So let's take this over to the grinder because I am excited to whip this guy into shape. All right, so I'm going to start over here on the grinder, and then we'll get out to the Dremel to get into the contouring and detailing. So let's get going. All right, so with the bulk of the work done here at the grinder, I'm going to get in the corners and do all the refining here down at the Dremel. So I'll meet you there. All right, so while it started to get messy, I've not seen anything yet. So I'm going to go ahead and actually throw on a mask to protect myself from some of that dust. With the grinder, it actually throws most of the dust straight down, but this is going to kick it right in my face. So I'm going to get my mask on, and then we will get to carving. As I fully expected, I'm going to need to change out my Dremel sanding drum because this wood is quite dense, but I'm starting to truly get to a point that I'm starting to like. So here we go. Switch that out. All right. Change it again. All right, so I could do this all day, but I've been able to refine in some of the shape that I'm looking for. And I'm excited by what I've come away with. Now it's on to the hand sanding to get that nice and smooth. This is the part of the job where you can literally do this all day long, especially when you get with a dense species of wood like this one here, where you're not hawking off a lot of material at once. You can literally just jump in and refine and refine and refine. For me, I've got to find a point where it's time to stop. So I think right now I've got a few little touch-ups that I'm going to do, and then it'll be time to stop. And I'll get in here and clean out these hollow pins that have got filled with epoxy. So bear with me. I'm still working. All right. So what I think I want to do here is just take a file and drop in a sharpening choil right there at the bottom. All right. So after digging in a little bit, deciding on what I want to do, I'm actually just going to put the edge on here and then oil this up and call it done. I use some rubbing alcohol, try and get this cleaned up, and then we will oil it up and she'll be all set. Actually, before I do that, let's clean up. All right, family, this has to be my favorite part. We're going to clean up the knife with some rubbing alcohol, and then we're going to oil it up as well. So to do that, just want to get a soaked rag and some rubbing alcohol and go to town on cleaning this up, both the blade and the wood. So I'll oil both the handle and the blade, mainly for cleanliness on the blade, and then obviously for the penetration and protection on the handle. Thoroughly rub it in there. And then for the sake of the video, I won't let it sit, but usually I'll let the oil sit for a while so that it can truly penetrate, and I will again sort of after the video. I'm just going to get it on there and then wipe it off. For that, I'm going to need a clean towel. We have, truthfully, a finished product for this guy here. Fun little blade. Started off as a simple saw blade with a pretty straightforward design, and it ended up being this guy here. So guys, stay tuned for more. I will definitely be digging in on the next video. I will show you guys this up close and personal, not out here in the shed, and we'll kind of go over some of the design features. In addition to that, in that same video, I will make a sheath for this guy, so you'll see how I do that as well. But we have a giveaway to talk about. Family, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. That was so much fun, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. Now, I really, truly want to make this giveaway happen. There's so many giveaways on YouTube that unfortunately are scams. This one won't be one. So all I need from you guys is on this video, I need 3 things. I need 1,000 likes, 10,000 views, and 100 subscribers. Pretty low baseline. Once we achieve that, what I will do is I will go to the comment section using an app so that there's no biases. I will select the winning random commenter. I will reply to their comment with contact details on how to reach me. We'll do some authentication really quick. You'll give me a mailing address and I will send the knife out to you. What I'm truly hoping to get is December 1st. I want that to be the date. December 1st at 9 a.m. I'm hoping to jump down into the comment section, select a winner, and get this knife into your hands. If I can do that, this could be a fun little gift for someone you love for the holidays. Now, once again, all you need to do is like, subscribe, and comment. Now, I would also appreciate it if you could just jump out, share this, spread it to the masses so that we can hit that criteria quickly and we can make this happen. So do your part and I'll do mine. Let's get this in your hands. Thanks for watching.